So a lot of the components of this, for example, these QKD systems, specifically for drones, are intertwined, right? So the battery life affects how much data you can collect on a single flight. If you can't collect enough data during a single flight, then you don't have a secure key. Then you have to do multiple flights, and then that becomes a little bit of a nuisance to do that. But you can still go back up and then collect more, and then collect more key in order for you to have a secure key. But you don't really want to do that. And so the size, weight, and the size and weight of the system, or specifically in this case more the weight, really affects battery life, right? In our case, also the temperature also matters. Like in hot, humid summer days, batteries last a little bit less. In cold days, they might have better performance, for the same payload. But in our case, we are essentially at the border of what the drone can lift, and sometimes even beyond that. And so that really affects the amount of flight time that we get, and therefore the amount of key that we collect. And so this is also intertwined with the pointing and tracking system, right? If we can improve that, you can get more key, and then maybe you don't have to care too much about how much you're lifting or how long you're in the air. So these are all intertwined, but yeah, it matters quite a bit.